we are going to talk about why lean for the portfolio managers. I think, for many of us, lean may not be something new. And also, I hope most of you are familiar with SAFe as well. If you can just quickly throw a light on how familiar are you with SAFe, that will be helpful.
Yes, I've been an SPC
Okay.
for 5 years,
Oh,
consulting and agile transformation. I consider myself to be an LPM specialist. I recently led the LPM chapter for Emirates Airline.
Okay, awesome. I just want to keep it as interactive as possible. I don't want it to be a one-way street of me talking about. If you have some examples, if you have some thoughts, please pitch in as well. So again, here we are not going to talk too much about SAFe. Idea is not to talk about SAFe because scaledagileFramework.com is always there. You can hit there and you read about that. You can attend a course. You can learn about that. It's not something rocket science as it is. But what we are going to talk about, why specifically that lean word for the portfolio managers, and what's the importance of lean in a portfolio when we are thinking about scaling, when you are thinking about moving in a new direction. So a little bit of introduction about me. Ashwini Kalkura. I work for Cyberban as a principal consultant. I'm a SPCT candidate, one of the latest SPCT candidates, so to say, on the journey to become SPCT. I have been teaching the classes from last nearly 5 years now, and been a transformation consultant also for the similar amount of time on SAFe. On Scrum, I've been working on SAFe for last 7 or 8 years total, and SAFe for the nearly last 5 years. Trained over 1,800 people on SAFe. Most of the courses, except for Agile Software Engineering course, I have taught all the classes that SAFe has on offer. I believe myself as a student of Lean, Agile, and DevOps because when you are a student, you will learn a lot. So these opportunities of webinars, trainings, and transformations are an opportunity for me to learn more from the other side as well. One thing I'm very, very proud to say about myself is I'm a voracious reader. I try to read a book per week. I've been able to keep up that pace for the last nearly 3 years. From the last 3-4 months, I have not been able to keep up because of this SPCT journey. So that's putting a lot of stress, as Shahid knows about the journey. So other than that, I feel my feeling or my thoughts are always about only when you look at learning as a journey, not as a destination, you are going to come up with a lot of new ideas. You are going to meet a lot of new people. You are going to kind of accustom yourself into a lot of new ways of working. That's been my thinking over a period of time. So a quick agenda for this webinar. I'm not going to take 1.5 hours. The content wise, it's only 10 slides, but we want it to be more discussion after every slide. Why that particular thing, or have you used it in our real life, right? So in our professional life. So can we think about some of the examples that we have seen in the professional life, which kind of connects back to what we are going to do today. I'm going to talk about why lean, a quick intro on why lean, lean in SAFe specifically, then lean for the portfolio managers. Why is it important from the 3 dimensions that we call about in SAFe? What are those things? And finally, we will kind of quickly wrap around the new course content on SAFe 5.0.1 LPM specifically. We will just quickly talk about who will benefit and what are the prerequisites. So if you are interested in knowing about the course, the who will benefit and the prerequisite, that section kind of gives you an intro to that one. Then Shahid will talk a little bit about our initiative in the Dubai region about and what is our overall vision and the roadmap looks like. So this is something which is most of us are familiar with, right? So when we talk about lean, we are talking about eliminating waste. So what is eliminating waste? We are kind of looking at what is non-value added in what we do, right? So we are always looking at options to see What are those things, I mean, which are non-value adding as of today, and how do I eliminate those ways? And most of us, I mean, who are students of the lean manufacturing ways of working, we kind of understand that there are different kinds of waste. Defects are thought of as a waste. If you have an inventory, that's also a waste, right? If you don't have the skill set, that's also a waste. So this is where, I mean, we are trying to bridge the gap on what are those waste, how do we eliminate. One more interesting concept is about building the quality in. Again, Deming's teachings say us that uh, looking for a quality at the end of what we do is going to be a waste, right? You can't really inspect for quality. Rather, you have to build in that quality in whatever you have to build. And lean is all about creating a knowledge repository. It's about not that what I know today, rather it's what I've been knowing from long, what could help me, so that, I mean, I can create that knowledge, and that knowledge is inculcated in the people that I train, I work with. This is where the respect for people comes in as well. It's an interesting thing to know. Lean called about this one nearly 50 years back, Taichi Ono, when we talked about in not even 50, I mean, more than that, right? So 1950s is when he said respect for people is one of the core values within Lean, right? So it's not just about doing something and delivering at the end of the day. It's also about making sure that we respect the people for what they are, because each one of us have certain knowledge, certain areas where we are very strong at. We need to think about that. Some of the things that are kind of contradicting at the same time goes hand in hand also is you deliver fast and defer the commitments. So it kind of looks contradictory to say that, okay, you have to deliver fast, at the same time you have to defer the commitments. Idea here is to not overload someone, right? Rather than that, market demands certain things, but keep an eye on that. What is it that going to help the customer? So you are while you are trying to make your lead time as quick as possible, as fast as possible, you are also thinking about what is a must have, what is that, I mean, which can wait, what is that we can deliver it later, right? So we are delivering fast by differing commitments as well. End of the day, it's about the system thinking or optimizing the whole. Lean always looks at things as, while I'm doing one thing at a time, but at the same time, that one thing is one small item in the ocean of the things that we are going to do. So we have to look at that, what we call as a value stream, concept to cash or customer order to cash. I have to look at it in an entirety. Usually I give an example of, again, going back to Toyota car itself. If I want to improve a car, just by improving the engine performance, not going to improve the overall performance of the car. I have to think about a new transmission system. I have to think about a chassis which can hold that engine and the transmission together. If I'm going on a racetrack, I'll have to think about the right tires as well for the car. The tires might look as something, I mean, which is very, very simple and easy, but that also plays a significant role. We are only as good as the weakest link in the chain, right? So we are only as good as the weakest link in the chain. So we have to make sure that all the parts interconnected that are going to be tied together smoothly. So how do I use this lean philosophy or this thoughts of, I mean, 7 principles of lean? For me, one important thing is, if we want to do something, if we want to do something useful, we have to work as a team. That's a given. That's always a given. It's like Shahid told in the beginning, Learning Initiative and Cyberban is joining hands together to make sure that we dominate the world, so to say, right? So I can't do it alone. He can't do it alone. We have to join the hands. At the same time, there are two pillars which supports joining your hands. You have to have clarity. At the same time, you have to have the competency. So most of the time we get stuck with the competency part of it. We get stuck with the competency part of it and say that, okay, we have the best developers in the world. We have the best consultant in the world we have hired, right? Or we even say that, okay, we have the best managers in our organization. Yes, competency is really required, but at the same time, does the organization give a clarity for those people to execute? That's also very, very important. This is where the lean philosophy comes in for an organization. When we are talking about bottoms up, we are going to talk about the competencies, we are going to talk about scrum, we are going to talk about faster iterations, learning cycles, doing a demo, talking to the customers, doing a Gemba, so on and so forth. When you're talking about a top-down approach, here you can't be like, okay, I create a strategy today, tomorrow morning I'm going to change the strategy. That doesn't work for you, right? So you have to have that clarity of what is it that you are going to achieve, what is it that you are trying to achieve. So you need to have a clear understanding of what is your goals are. This is where for me the lean portfolio management comes in. And if you look closely at the safe framework, again, I'm not going to explain on the right side what is there as a safe framework, what we call as a big picture. One thing interesting to note is if you look closely, you have all the backlogs everywhere. They are connected backlogs. At the portfolio level, you have a backlog. All in portfolio managers are going to have the governance around that. You have a backlog at the large solution level. Your solution managers are going to govern that one. You have a program backlog, which your product managers are going to govern, or I mean, have a content authority there. And you have a team backlog where product owners are working. So one thing, again, from my perspective, what I see is agile is more applicable at the team and maybe the program level. And as and when you go up and up, it's the lean that comes into fore, right? It is not to say that the portfolio managers don't need to think about agile. Definitely, yes, they can always look for the values and principles from there. They can always think about say doing a daily stand up, right? So even at a organization level, when you are doing a transformation, I do a daily stand up. I know that quickly, I know what is working, what is not working. You can definitely do that one. Do you do the demo? Yes, definitely we do the demo. We do the demo of our transformation work itself. What is working, right? So to our stakeholders, we can definitely do that one. But at the same time, I do see a portfolio as a bigger entity where you have the strategies. You can't change the strategy on a daily basis. Rather, you are really looking at, okay, this is my goal. I need to avoid wastages. I need to make sure that I am prioritizing the right items. I am prioritizing and going in the right direction. Uh, Whatever the initiatives that I'm taking are the right ones for me to move forward, right? So this is where the eliminating waste, making sure that we kind of respect for people on what they have, and also at the same time building quality in at the initiative level itself is very, very important and tangible. And if you look at the teams, when I say teams are more and more using agile, this is where philosophies like Scrum or Kanban works well for you. At the same time, are we not using lean? Definitely you are using lean. Definitely you are thinking about value stream mapping. Definitely you are thinking about reducing, avoiding wastages. You are thinking about visualizing your workflow, so on and so forth. But mostly it is the teams which use the agile ways of working. When we talk about lean, as and when we go up and up in the value chain, I will not say hierarchy, but rather in the value chain of thinking about a strategy, thinking about our roadmap, we are going to use more and more lean ways of working, right? So idea is to have a goal, but at the same time be wary of the roadblocks that we are going to get, uh, easily be able to navigate around those roadblocks, and also able to quickly adapt to the changes that are happening in the marketplace, right? I'll stop here for a while. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts about this framework, and what is whatever I've talked about agile and lean ways of working, right? Do you want to agree with me, or do you want to confront with me with saying, no, this is not the way it should work. It should be a little different.
Yeah, so I agree with you. Your sentiment that agile, obviously, agile in its purest form is very much team orientated, and what we need to do is ensure that the team
Yeah.
is enabled and empowered to deliver maximum value by doing the work up front. Again,
Yep.
the minimal work up front, so that we don't over engineer what we give the teams to do, but we
Yes.
also don't give them a load of stuff that they shouldn't be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's a reality, right? I mean, whatever framework you use, I mean, Scrum doesn't give you much guidelines around what you do in a portfolio. It leaves up to you, right? I mean, how do you run the organization? Many a times, I mean, we say safe is very prescriptive. I mean, they give all the guidelines. And for me, it is not the prescription. It is rather, it's about, okay, these are the things available for you. Safe never says, I mean, you have to use the portfolio always, right? So most of the times when you are piloting, you will go with the essential safe. Bare minimum safe configuration is doesn't include the portfolio level at all. It's about what you want to do with that and what's the maturity level. I mean, you want to think about from your organization perspective as well.
Yeah, you mentioned being an avid reader, and SAFE is just a well-sorted library of capabilities that you can choose to adopt or not.
Exactly. I mean, I usually give around 24 books from the safe slides for the students and say, you read all of them. I mean, you will get the nuggets from where safe has picked up all of them, right? And also, I think I attended the masterclass from Dean. I mean, he was also very comfortable in saying it's not that something I have found out new. Rather, I have put all the nuggets together and I kind of gave you a plate which you can okay, you can see, okay, this is the dessert, this is the starter, and this is the main course, right? I mean, you can see that way, right? Rather than just giving you only one item, I'm giving you all the items. It's for you to pick and choose what works for you from the practice perspective.
Yeah, and as you say, the greatest gift came from Deming. So hence the lean, agile really being at the center of everything in SAFE.
Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move forward?
Hey, Avi, this is Sheikh Issa. How are you doing?
All good, sir.
Thanks. Well, it's a wonderful concept that you have just mentioned, but recently with the current crisis that we have gone through, one thing which has come to the forefront is that is the anticipating.
Yeah.
Now, we because for me, agile is still it's still I would call it reactive. Uh, but what we are actually looking more now is on the anticipation. How we can actually bring that element in this whole agile and lean concept.
Sure. Yes. In fact, I mean, we have always been talking about blocks and events. I mean, it happens once in a while, right? So I think this COVID situation hit all of us very hard, right? So one fine day you wake up and I mean, all travels are restricted. I mean, you can't move around. I mean, you can't do certain things. You have to plan, you have to work together. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, there are not enough new ways of working available for you, right? So in fact, I mean, even the safe courses, the way that we delivered, if any one of you have told me that you will deliver some online trainings, I would have laughed it off in the last year, right? So even in January, February, I would have laughed it off. Now it's a reality. And for me, it looks like, I mean, next 2 years are going to be like this. That's what we call as a new normal. So,
Yeah, I mean the new normal will become the norm basically going forward. And as you said, no one thought the situation will be actually changing this way. And this is not the first crisis, and now it will be the last. There could be more challenges coming forward.
yeah.
But what I'm trying to actually say, we uh, there used to be waterfall, then agile, then we had lean and so on. But
Hmm.
I think now we need to look more towards anticipating the future. That okay, this is how what's going to happen, and this is what we need to be
Yeah.
ready for.
Yeah.
Like more on the scenario planning.
Yep.
So the portfolio the managers or even the strategy guys,
Hmm.
they need to create more scenarios rather than plans.
Yeah.
Okay, if this happens, this is what we are going to do. So we have multiple scenarios which is based on anticipation for the future.
Yeah, yeah. I like this idea. I mean, I think a little bit of it, I mean, we already have in terms of MEPs and kind of, as you said, the scenarios, right? I mean, we do have it, but I like that idea of rather than creating a plan or rather than creating even an initiative, you create maybe a roadmap of if then else type of scenarios, right? If this one works, then we go here, else, I mean, we go here. So that's something, I mean, we have to get better at it. And then we have to be really proactive around that one also. Like you rightly mentioned, we have been, I mean, mostly reactive on the feedbacks. Can we be more proactive on the feed on what on anticipating, I mean, what could happen? Because Many a times customers also don't know what they want, right? We have to show them what they need.
Shanish, Shahid here. I
Yeah.
think just kind of adding on to some of them points that the guys are raising. I know whilst we're talking about being reactive, and I think we're never going to fully be able to anticipate, but planning is nothing more than an opinion.
Yeah.
Execution is the strategy, and I think when you go deeper into the SAFe framework,
Mm.
and you look at the set-based design, exploring more design options, even really looking at your portfolio and exploring multiple options. I'm
Mm.
just thinking that could be one way that you've explored a number of future states that are ready
Yeah.
to some degree and ready to execute. I mean, nobody could ever predict
Yeah.
COVID, right? And I think the ability to
Mm.
be able to react with the strategy agility without getting tied down.
Mm.
I think the other concept, just touching on the waterfall point, is look, for me, it's not about waterfall versus agile. I mean, we talk about this within the scaled agile framework. When we talk about the hierarchies are needed, we need virtual organizations that are built. I think for me, a lot of people have taken agility as the destination, and
Mm.
it is not the destination. The destination is simply business results.
Yep.
And as the science, great, but it's the art that's going to get me there. So I'm going to take what I want, I'm going to eliminate what I don't want, I'm going to use the same competencies that Waterfall has taught me and apply them where I need to. And I think this is the key message is, whilst this looks prescriptive, let's not boil the ocean with this. Whatever the lean portfolio management area says, it's guidance, and we
Yeah.
look to it and we look to what works and what doesn't work. I mean, you take Steve's organization,
Mm.
a massive beast. I think, Steve, you guys are the first that have implemented lean portfolio management in the region. And you can probably share on that it was not easy. Getting teams to agile, cool. Getting agile team of teams, cool.
Yeah.
But getting this LPM, it is not a department. And I think this is some of the kind of challenges that we might be able to explore as we kind of go through this webinar.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd add to that. It's about the people. It's always about the people, not the tool or the framework. And the real challenge in LPM is it's about different sets of people who, like we've opened up on this call, need to collaborate.
Yeah.
Even as SAFe has been implemented across lots of organizations, very often it's technology driven. LPM cannot work in that space alone.
Yeah.
It has to engage the business and IT in true strategic partnership in order for it to be effective.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Basically, like whether it's waterfall, lean, agile, Six Sigma. I mean, these are all means to the end. It's not the end itself. The end is the business outcome. What is the end outcome that we are getting from these things? And that's what I think the focus should be. The more on the outcome, on the output that we will be getting to, and these could be like tools for efficiency and so on.
Yep, exactly. So I think, I mean, most of the consultants, I mean, forget that one. And I mean, we kind of become what we call as um, aficionados of Scrum or Safe, and we only talk about that, right? So end of the day, what business wants or even the customer want is a result or a solution for their problem. Are we trying to solve their problems? That should be, I mean, our core mantra, so to say. And why lean portfolio management? Again, it's an opportunity to capture the current state and a future state for us. Again, SAFe gives you some tools around in terms of uh, putting a portfolio canvas, then thinking about the horizons of growth, then thinking about what is my strategic theme, so that, I mean, we are moving in the right direction. Like Shahid called out, what is my current stage that is important to really understand. Then, I mean, I'll think about what is my strength, what is my weakness, what are the opportunities and threats from the market. I kind of carve out, okay, this could be my future stage. I mean, I move towards that one, right? And this needs, I mean, you need to identify some of the important business initiatives, right? So it's not about, okay, a hippo prioritization where highest paid person's opinion matters. Rather, it's about applying a little bit of a science in terms of calculating the value upfront, and also understanding the art of really what makes sense from the customer perspective, what makes sense from the market perspective. So you need to establish that flow even at a portfolio level. One thing Safe does very well is flow is not just for the teams to move their stories, move their features and show a demo. Rather, it's also for the portfolio to really see how is my initiative moving, what are the MVPs that I have, or what are the minimum viable products that I'm developing today, how are they performing, what are the KPIs telling me, what are the customer satisfaction scores telling for me, right? So this is where you measure the lean portfolios performance as well. Performance is not for the just for the engineers and not for the teams. Even the portfolio's performance, you need to keep an eye or a watch on that one, because you are end of the day allocating budgets, right? So you are burning real money. When you talk about a portfolio, you are burning real money. So whatever you are burning, again, I'm using a metaphor of burning a money. If you are burning a money, it's better that, I mean, you get something out of it rather than just burning the money. It's also about really thinking about a collaborative way of working together, finding the avenues of opportunities of where I need to put the money. This is where your participatory budgeting also comes in. A fairly new concept, but for the development part of the world or the IT part of the world. But I think, I mean, many of the communities in Brazil and US and in some of the European countries also have done it very well for their municipalities and, I mean, their town councils, right? So they involve the citizens in the participatory budgeting. I mean, they involve the citizens in the budgeting decisions, make certain decisions on what is my run the business versus what is my grow the business. Can you apply something of that sort, a collaborative approach of thinking about, okay, this is the money that I have, where should my run the business go, where should I, how much money should go the business should take a hit on, right? So this is where the new thoughts in the lean portfolio management from Safe comes in very handy. Again, it's a set of tools for you. If you go through the course content, I mean, you will end up with 10 or 15 such tools. Am I going to use all of them to start with? Maybe not. Can I use some of them? I mean, even if I'm not implementing Safe, definitely yes. Again, I mean, that's my perspective, not a Safe perspective. My perspective is, can I use some of the tools even in a traditional organization? Definitely yes, because these are the things we have been learning from the last century or so, right? Because of the manufacturing ways of working, because of the oil and gas economy that, I mean, that boomed in the last few decades earlier, right? And also what we see today of the FANG economy, so to say, right? Facebook's, Amazon's, Apple, Google, and Netflix, right? So we call it as a FANG company, or what they are doing, right? So there are a lot of new thoughts available from these new entrants in the market, the new companies that are putting out things in a MVP way of working. So we can definitely learn from that and take it into our stride of a lean portfolio management's overall performance. So SAFE talks about it in three ways. Again, scaledagileFramework.com. If you click on the lean portfolio management competency, you will get a whole bunch of thoughts there. You can also dig deeper into any of the areas also. SAFE talks about it as three parts. One is about the strategy and your funding part. The second one is about the portfolio operations. The third one is about the lean governance. We will quickly touch upon some of the tools that we typically learn in an LPM course. When we talk about a strategy and investment funding, for most of the organization, this is the first dimensions or a first part of the core competency they want to really achieve. So this is where your enterprise's strategy comes in. A strategic theme comes in. So any organization will always think about, okay, today this is my business as usual. But at the same time, if I want to survive and thrive a decade later or few years later, I need to have a theme. I need to have thinking about who is my competitor, how am I going to, one thing is block the competitor, at the same time, be ahead of the competitors. Simple thing, again, maybe, I mean, Dubai region is mostly about banks, and I mean, that's what I have seen. If you think about banks, traditionally how banks have been operating, it's more a customer oriented, customer centric. You walk into a bank and, I mean, do the transactions. to what we have seen in the last decade is entirely different era, right? So I assess my bank through my mobile phone, as simple as that. I don't even know who sits in which branch, right? So it's entirely changed. For me, that ease of usage, ease of getting the money when I want, ease of transferring the money when I want, I mean, even as a individual, right? It's become important for me, right? I need to assess, I need to have that experience of user experience of assessing a bank or assessing whatever I want anywhere in the world. So this is where your strategic themes become very, very important in terms of um, what we are going to achieve in the future. Again, safe, again, take some heart from the OKRs or objectives and key results. So that could be one way of thinking about, okay, this is my objectives. These are the outcomes that I expect as a key results, right? So always, I mean, think about a new way of putting your thoughts in a um, maybe a half a pager or a one pager, right? So that kind of gives a clarity for the organization. Again, for me, from a portfolio standpoint, it's a clarity that we give to the organization that's very, very important. That's where, I mean, we talk about portfolio canvases, which kind of lays out what is the solution, who are your customers, how are they using it today, what are your KPIs, what is your current budget, everything in a A3 or a A2 size of a paper, right? So you are trying to put that portfolio canvas, and whatever you come up with a new initiatives, you always put a lean business case talking about, is there a make or a buy decision, right? So instead of burning our money, can we think about buying something from outside which is already available for us? Can we think about MVPs? I'm not going to fund for the entire initiative. No good organization which is in its census should never be putting all its money into a new initiative. Rather, they should ask a question of, if this is a new initiative, what is that MVP I'm carving out first? How I'm proving my hypothesis, right? So an approach of thinking about what is that I'm going to do today, how I'm going to build something useful for the customers, put it in their basket, look at how they are approaching or how they are using that one, and actually taking a heart from that, taking the numbers from that, and moving forward, right? And the last few parts we talk about in the strategy and investment funding is moving from a cost center budgeting or a project budgeting to a value stream budgeting ways of working. I would call it as in simple terms of, instead of moving people to the work, right, move the work to the people, right? So rather than carving out something new and saying I need 5 testers, 6 designers, 3 marketing guys, 2 people in the sales, rather than that, have a constant team, have a constant team which knows the domain, which has the idea, which knows, I mean, what is the customer value or the lifetime value of the customer, and move the work to them. Don't move people to the work, rather move the work to the people. People should be constant. And rightly, one of you pointed out, people are the constant in any organization, any product development. People are the only constant that we see, right? So their competency, their understanding of how do we do the things is something, I mean, we need to utilize it for the maximum. This is where you are funding a value stream, keeping the value stream constant or an agile release train constant, funding them becomes very, very crucial and essential. We are not again going to go do it randomly. Rather, we put some guardrails like the rails we have in our staircases. We need some guardrails like, what is the capacity we are going to allocate, which kind of initiatives take the money, is it the run the business, how much should the grow the business should take the money, are we involving our architects, enterprise architects, are we involving our business owners, right? Are we also looking at MVPs, are we also looking at the KPIs? It becomes very, very essential that you fund any value stream for the right reasons at the right time. And this is where you are moving the initiative also helps you in the portfolio Kanban. Again, depending on your context, you decide what is the steps that you need to have. So I get an initiative, I analyze, I review it, I give a go ahead, I put it in the portfolio Kanban or a backlog. Then the teams or the trains take it up when they have a capacity available for them. Can I provide a system for a people to make the largest initiatives also visible? Is something a portfolio Kanban does it well. Any thoughts around the strategy and investment funding? Any of these things that you have seen in your organization working or not working?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things you mentioned that I think are really, really strong. OKRs to begin with, very, very powerful. And if you think of a hierarchy of goals, the key thing with the OKRs is that every child of a parent OKR should be derived from the benefit, not from the objective. And that's got to be cascaded all the way through. So actually, we should never deliver, or we should never build anything in a team unless we know that it's going to produce value. And that value should roll back up to the original goal that's derived in the strategy. And OKRs offer us that, so it's really, really powerful if done the right way. And I think one of the things I struggled to explain to people was that actually when we deliver features, we're not delivering technology, we're delivering business benefit features. And I think SAFE have now adopted the term that's something like that, because I was struggling to explain it, but it's all about that. If you're not delivering a business benefit, don't do it at all. And the OKR structure allows that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, I mean, when the teams write the objectives, they are not writing, I'm delivering a search feature. Rather, they are talking about what will the users benefit if they are delivering this search feature, right? And in fact, in one of the classes, one of the high-ranking executive talked about, I want to give this education for all my team members, I mean, who are, again, senior VPs, but how do I convince them to sit in a class, right, for 2 days? So what I told was, again, I mean, I took the heart from OKRs and I said, Sarjebin and Larry Page, they write their OKRs for Google, right? So they have a mandate to write OKRs by a specific date for that year and for that specific quarter. So only when they write their OKRs, like you rightly pointed out, what are the benefits? The next level is going to take up that benefits and they are going to write their OKRs or objectives and key results. It cascades down to the last engineer in Google. So that's where, I mean, you have a really understandable vision and the roadmap for the teams. If it is coming from, if Sergey and Larry, I mean, don't write the OKRs, I mean, they don't write the objectives and key results for that year, nobody in Google will have their objectives and key results. It's as simple as that, right? So that's the seriousness, I mean, we need to have around what is our objective, what are the key results we want to drive, right?
Absolutely. And then the other thing I wanted to comment on was guardrails, and they're extremely powerful. Guardrails need to be the strategic levers that the executives can pull in order to really steer a course in a very different way, like we saw with COVID and a complete pivot at the strategic level. The problem is organizations haven't understood that those levers also need to cascade all the way through. And the perfect combination is strategic guardrails and WSGF. Those two together give that pivot real meaning and actually flow through to the organization to determine what they do next.
Yeah. And for anyone who wants to understand WSJF, I mean, it's an interesting and very nice concept of making sure that we can deliver the highest priority items in the least amount of time, right? Weighted shortage job first. I call it as, I mean, again, SAFE calls it out also as we want to avoid the squeaky wheels and the hippo prioritization. Highest paid person's opinions are whoever showed the loudest gets the money, right? Rather, we want to put a thought about what is the business value I'm going to generate, what are the time criticalities that I have? I mean, is there any importance in the feedback that I'm going to get, right? So the WSJF or weighted shortage job first always takes into account all those parameters and puts a very concrete upfront evidence for you to really think about how is it going to help me? How is this new initiative going to help me? Thanks to you for those inputs.
I have, sorry, if I may ask a question.
Sure.
I wanted to know the difference between the portfolio canvas and the portfolio Kanban.
Okay. Portfolio canvas is a simple one pager for you to really put a thought about what is your portfolio today doing, right? It talks about who are your customers, what are the solutions that you have, how are you reaching out to the customers, what are your internal and external people events that you have, right? So that, I mean, you kind of get a view of your portfolio. It's just to get a view of current portfolio. And when we talk about a portfolio Kanban, it's a board which kind of has these processes of, okay, this is a new initiative. What should happen next to that one? I'm going to analyze that one. I'm going to review that one. Maybe I'm going to put it into the backlog. Then somebody picks it up and creates an MVP out of it. And if the hypothesis is proven, I'm moving forward. Otherwise, I'm dropping this one. It's something like your Scrum board, right? So end of the day, portfolio Kanban is something like your Scrum board for the team, which is at the portfolio level.
Thank you.
And thank you for that. I think just to kind of clarify as well, more from a real world perspective, the Kanban also gives that visualization, to the executives of where that actual epic is and what is the current state and where they all are. Because I think one of the biggest concerns around agility, which when the conversation and the right language is used, their concern is the loss of control or governance, or they're not going to know. And when you look at some of the companies, they're actually launching epics right at the team level, and things are spawning off and money's getting spent and nobody knows what's going on. And then what's actually happening is they're going back to the traditional project management and they're planning the epic like a project with a work breakdown structure and a critical path. So it's that importance that you give it and that visualization, and that just comes back to the principles.
And it's worth saying the portfolio canvas isn't a new thing. So it comes from a business canvas, which has been around for many years. It's reused. What it's trying to say is, the business have a reason for a business division. The portfolio is probably aligned to that. What's the reason for existence of that portfolio? Deliver what value to which parts of the business?
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, nothing has been new. This is what I tell in my classes as well. When you talk about lean, it's a 1950s concept. Something, we have not tried to understand for whatever reason, right? We talk about operations. This also is very, very important, right? The way I put it out is anything new you want to start it out, it's very easy, right? So you kind of say, okay, Scrum is new thing, okay, new thing in the market, or Safe is new thing in the market. Let's get some consultants. Let's start it out. Let's hire some Scrum masters. You start it off in a bang, but how do I sustain? This is where your operations come in, right? So you need to coordinate multiple value streams. You need to coordinate multiple portfolios also at the end of the day, right? You need to have a roadmap. You need to really know where am I going towards, right? And this is where your Agile PMO and LACE comes in. Agile PMO, again, PMO is your Agile Program Management Office or a Product Management Office. A different you spin around the PMO, traditional PMOs. Idea is PMOs come with a lot of knowledge, right? So they have that soft skills. They know the organization very well. They know how to move things forward. They know how to measure. They know how to grow, right? We are going to utilize their help. And if there is a PMO, you are not going to say that, okay, throw off the PMO. Rather, utilize their knowledge, utilize their domain expertise that is built over a period of time in an agile way of working. And they usually work hand in hand with a LACE or a Lean Agile Center of Excellence, which is usually the transformation office, so to say. Earlier we used to call them as a transformation office or so. SAFE gives a good acronym for you to say LACE ties back everything together, right? So you kind of can make that analogy, so to say. And over a period of time, you will not be able to do everything by yourself. Trust me, for any executive, it's going to be a huge task. Looking at your Kanban, looking at your numbers, looking at your KPIs. So these communities of practices are something which inorganically grow the things, right? So like it could be about Scrum Masters forming their own community of practice, or the product owners and product managers forming their own communities of practice. Idea here is you need not learn from your own mistakes. You don't have to make all the mistakes. There are enough number of people, enough number of teams who have made already that mistakes. So learn from learn from what they have done and what they have seen new patterns, right? So take a heart from, what others are doing, what other learnings from other part of the organization. This is where your communities of practices are going to help you. Finally, it's about the portfolio sync. Again, SAFE suggests portfolio members to meet once in a month, and then once in 3 months have a strategic sync meeting, so that you always keep an eye on your Kanban, always keep an eye on where your current initiatives are, how is it going, do we need to change our direction, do we need to kind of think in a different way, right? So there is always a formal event available for you. It is not to say that, okay, informally you can't reach out to someone, I mean, kind of make so decision, but formally when you keep those events, it becomes a forcing function for you. It becomes a forcing function for you to look very, very into deep understanding, look very, very deep into what is that numbers telling us, right? So are we moving in the right direction? And one of the final guideline that is safe gives also is about agile contracts, because most of the organizations struggle here, right? So we operate in an agile way at the team level, maybe at the program level, but when it comes to having vendors onboarded, having our suppliers onboarded, we either go with a fixed price or a time and material. One of them shifts all the accountability to the vendor, one of them shifts all the accountability and the end of the day, I mean, all the problems to the customer themselves. So can we go towards a more a managed way of contracts? Again, there are some very good guidelines available on the safe websites. I've also seen it in action in, you know, some of the large organizations that I have worked, where contracts are seen as a way to start the conversation, but at the same time there is always, okay, responsibility A is customers, responsibility B is about the vendors, right? And there are also shared responsibilities of making sure that the people have the right knowledge, people have the right clarity, people have the right vision and the mission statement, right? So agile contracts, the newer way of managed agile contracts, talk about what is vendor's responsibility, what is customer's responsibility, what are the shared responsibilities as well. Idea is to move towards an agile way of working, I mean, even with the contracts, yes. uh, and if you look at the, I mean, strangely and oddly, I mean, if you look at the agile manifesto, I think, I mean, they have talked about this one 20 years back, saying that customer collaboration over contract negotiation, but somehow we are all stuck with the contract negotiation. Are they not important? Definitely they are important, but at the same time, can we collaborate? um, and get that collaboration also, can it be an aspect of the contracts, is something that new that we have to think about now. Any thoughts on the operations part of it?
Yeah, I'll just pick up on one area with the portfolio sync. I think the clarity that's now been issued around the 3 meetings plus the strategic synchronization, I think that was really needed. We went with that approach anyhow because it's obvious it's needed, but it's great to see the clarity now from SAFE. The problem you've got with the portfolio sync is it is battling in a transformation purpose. It's battling with the steering groups in that move from projects to product management. And it's really, really difficult for organizations to get their head around the fact that a portfolio sync is not a steering group. Yeah. So there's a lot of work in that and defining exactly what you're trying to achieve from a portfolio sync to make sure it's actually doing the right things.
Yeah. The new guidelines about the portfolio sync, I mean, it was earlier kind of implicit. They have made it very explicit, and I mean, kind of Richard Nasser has given a very good guideline article around that one as well. So it's a nice way to again look back at what is not really explicit, what people might need a little bit more guideline around, right? So the last part talks about the governance. One thing, like Shahid mentioned, always, I mean, we all are worried about is not change. It's the unknown in the change, right? So, I mean, I like, I mean, this is something, I mean, I talked about in my SPCT immersion week. We always say people don't like change or change is hard and so on and so forth. I always think about why change is hard. Then when you think about it, I mean, most of you have traveled around the world to be in Dubai, or I mean, you have married someone who was perfectly unknown to you. So, I mean, how did you embrace that change, right? So how did you traveled around the world and, I mean, were working in a very, very different country and a culture than what you were born into? So is it that change is very hard for people? When you dig deeper, it's the unknown part of the change which is always hard for the people, right? It's not the change. Only when I know that the change is going to be helpful for me, that is going to be give a brighter future for me, I will always embrace change. So can I give that, can I eliminate some portion of unknown? I can't eliminate everything in the unknown, but at the same time, can I eliminate some portion of the unknown? This is where for me the governance comes in, right? So this is where you have sync meetings, you adjust the budget dynamically once in 6 months is what safe talks about. Don't do it once in a year, rather do it once in 6 months, because by that time you would have run two PIs or two program increments. You have some KPIs and numbers to talk about that. And this is where the concept of participatory budgeting also comes in. You collaboratively work to see what is that I need to put into the run the business, what is that I need to put into the grow the business part of it, right? And prioritize the fee epics. Always use WSJF, use the weighted shortage job first. Always keep prioritizing your initiatives. It is not that one initiative which is prioritized and sitting in the backlog will always take a priority. Rather, you are constantly looking and evaluating the performance of the portfolio, plus also what is the new number talks about, right? And last part, continuously think about the lean QMS or the quality management system, right? Compliance and the quality management system, because most of the quality management systems are built around a phase gate approach. Rather, can I think about a continuous way of working? When the teams are talking about once in 2 weeks, we are going to show a demo. When the program increment is showing a system demo every 2 weeks, even your quality management system also has to kind of look at how do we continuously improve the compliance and the quality parameters. One good thing and a great thing that I've seen in SAFE is the kind of looking at the technology business management. It's kind of done by the CIO, CTO forums, where how do I make sure that the IT within my overall business is delivering benefits? What is the total cost of ownership for me, right? End of the day, from an IT perspective, that kind of puts you into kind of real buckets on where am I spending the money, what am I getting, what are the KPIs, how do I manage, right? So SAFE has kind of taken some good parts from the technology business management forum and put back into the guidelines on how do I see IT as not just an enabler, but at the end of the day, they're also delivering value. How do I make sure that the IT is also delivering value per se from a customer perspective? Any thought around the governance part of it?
Yeah, just again picking up on one thing, which is actually the last thing you spoke about. I think that the visibility of the value that technology is generating obviously very, very important. But there is a focus on bill of IT that comes out in the same area. I think that's a little bit of a misdirection, because what that has done is has helped the finances get involved in the micromanagement at the operational level. And of course, the operations teams go, fantastic, we can talk about licenses and individual costs rather than thinking about the macro level value of IT for the business.
Exactly. Yeah. As I think, that macro level value that IT gives to the business is, far more important than the few dollars that you are burning today, right?
Exactly, because it is truly very, very powerful to have that overview. But my experience has been it gets dragged into the weeds far too quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. So a quick, again, this is what SAFE LPM kind of talks about: the three parts of strategy and investment funding, operations part, and also the governance part. Earlier, SAFE LPM was a 3-day format. It was an experiential workshop where you used to get an example and then run it as a 3-day workshop. Now it is a 2+1 day format, where it is a 2-day is a classroom session. And if the executives are interested, there is an optional 1-day workshop in your specific context, rather than taking say Geekbooks or say Amazon or some of the companies. Rather than that, if you want to implement that one, if you want to start thinking about that, it's an optional 1-day exercise that you will do it in a your own context. So that kind of helps you into moving in the right direction, rather than thinking about a quick quick and dirty example. You take your own context and think about the real money that you are putting it out, and where do I need to put it out, right? Again, like every safe course, if it is a 2-day course, you get 16 PDUs and SUs, and more than anything else, you get a practical tips on all the things that we have talked about. Uh, as you see here, I mean, I have nearly 15 bullet points, or even more than that. I think I've skipped some of them intentionally. So you get practical tips on what are those things, I mean, new knowledge that is available in the industry, which is put in a seamless way, rather than putting, okay, this is available, this is available, this is available. LPM course does a great job of connecting all of them, putting it in a sequence, maybe a little bit of a sequential way, saying that, okay, maybe this is where you want to start. When you want to start here, I mean, this is also something you might want to take care of, right? When you take care of that one, you also might have to involve these roles and responsibilities. It kind of puts you into a kind of a codified way, so to say, and it becomes a very, very practical experience for you, right? And who can attend and benefit? While it is targeted towards the portfolio managers, anyone from here, right? So human resources, RTEs, I mean, your business unit managers, your product managers who want to think about a new way of working, really wanting to know how, as an organization, we can provide a clarity to our people, they will definitely benefit from it. And if you have worked in the industry for, say, multiple years and a decade, you are welcome to attend the course, because it doesn't really, LPM course doesn't really talk about only safe, rather talks about, as a portfolio manager, what you are going to do. But if you have a familiarity with agile concepts and maybe taken one of the courses like Leading Safe or a Safe POPM, and already had some experience with the working in a safe environment, it is always recommended and, I mean, useful to go for a lean portfolio management course. It's an advanced course. At the same time, there is nothing advanced about the concept there. Only thing is, we are going to put all these concepts in a good codified way, and it gives a good insight for any executive who is attending this course on what could be my next step going through this overall curriculum, right? That kind of gives them a overall big picture and an understanding of how do I lead my portfolio. Add only this much.
All right, thank you very much, Ashwini. That was very, very insightful. Really appreciate your time, joining us in your evenings. Hope you really enjoyed that. And yeah, we'll see you again. When's our next webinar, Ashwini?
It's on October 31st and then November 2nd. 2 webinars back to back we have.
Yep.
Yeah,
fantastic. And Ashwini is going to be leading
yeah.
both of them. So if you enjoyed this, please do join us for the next ones, and you will get all the details in the meetup groups.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Shahid. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Ashwini. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, Ashwini.